You've got to anchor yourself in the silent, suffocating atmosphere of a house at 4 in the morning. As the text notes, true silence doesn't actually exist, right? Instead, you just hear the structural groans of your life. A refrigerator compressor kicking on, a distant semi-truck rolling down the highway. For our protagonist, a 34-year-old mother carrying her third child, this 4 a.m. darkness was literally the hour of the ghosts.
Part 1. The Disappearing Foundation. Let's look at the baseline of her life. A historical archivist whose entire career revolves around preserving things so they don't disappear, while her father is actively fading to terminal cancer.
What we have here is the illusion of absolute security. First, there's David, her husband. The text calls him the timber frame. He's analytical, he's serious, he works in supply chain management. When the father's terminal diagnosis drops, David doesn't just offer empty sympathy. No, he draws a line down a legal pad and he figures out the logistics. He even encourages her to quit her job so she can spend more time with her dying father. It seems so supportive. And then there's Julianne, the skin. If David is the house, Julianne is the eccentric, deeply trusted, chosen sister. These two have been best friends since sharing a wading pool back in 1994. When the protagonist's mother died years ago, Julianne's family simply absorbed her. On paper, it's a seemingly flawless support system.
But that system is suddenly put under immense weight. Her father's brutal timeline becomes the tragic anchor for our protagonist's entire emotional state. Picture the oncology annex. It smells of industrialized bleach and green apples. The doctors? They've stopped using the word years. They're looking at seasons now. Maybe 2. If the winter is kind, 3. As the fog rolls into her father's brain, and he literally stops recognizing his own dog, she becomes entirely reliant on David and Julianne just to keep her tethered to reality.
Part 2. A catastrophic structural failure. It's the early morning of November 12th. She's been up since 3:30 a.m. with a sick 4-year-old child.
She finally gets her kid back to sleep and walks into the dark, cold master bedroom. Her husband is fast asleep. And then his iPhone begins to vibrate on the nightstand. The phone is on haptic mode. It's buzzing against the cherry wood with this low, aggressive rhythm. The text describes it perfectly, like an angry hornet trapped in a jar. Now, David is a chronic oversleeper who keeps 4 alarms. To save him the irritation of the phone ringing, she simply picks it up to slide the toggle and turn it off. The screen casts a sharp bluish rectangle in the dark room. And as she clears the alarm, a banner notification drops down. The sender is just listed as the letter J.
You know, your eyes are muzzles. They react to light and pattern way before your morals can even intervene. So she reads the banner text. Assumed since there wasn't an angry pregnant lady on her doorstep, he hadn't told me about them yet. Now stop and think about the word pregnant here. It's a highly specific identifier. Only 3 people use it to describe her: her father, her husband, and Julianne. The brain doesn't scream during a catastrophic structural failure like this. It enters a hyper-focused stasis. With a hand that feels completely detached from her own body, she presses her sleeping husband's thumb against the home button, unlocks the phone, and walks straight into the bathroom.
What follows is a 90-second plunge into the total destruction of a 10-year life. The chat logs go back 5 full months, starting almost to the exact day her father received his terminal prognosis. At first, it's just logistical stuff, arranging secret meetings at a cottage. But then it morphs into a systematic, daily commentary on the protagonist's dissolution. The crushing reality hitting her in that bathroom is that her father's dying wasn't just a tragedy, it was actively being used as a cloaking device. They didn't encourage her to quit her job to help her grieve, they did it to completely cut off her financial independence. As the text powerfully puts it, they were taking off her boots so she couldn't run when the fire started.
Part 3. 30 days of silence. She sits on that bathroom floor for 2 hours until her legs go numb. She doesn't feel anger. Anger is a luxury for people who still have a home to stand in. Instead, she feels a cold, oily dread. And she makes her very first strategic move. She doesn't scream, she doesn't go out and smash a windshield. Instead, she drives to the office of Evelyn Vance, a severe 72-year-old attorney who immediately recognizes this for exactly what it is. It's not just an affair, it's a calculated financial trap. The cold mechanics are laid bare. The perpetrator's strategy was asset isolation. David pushed his wife to resign to make her dependent, while he simultaneously skimmed funds from his own logistics firm to pay the failing lease on Julianne's floral boutique. But Evelyn Vance creates the counter-strategy. David completely forgot about the protagonist's mother's restricted trust and her power of attorney over her dying father's accounts. Evelyn tells her flat out, "We are going to dismantle him." But to do it, she needs exactly 30 days of absolute silence to complete the forensic accounting. So ask yourself,
Could you fake your own life for a month? The next 3 weeks become an absolute masterclass in theatrical survival. The protagonist cooks David's dinners. She washes his shirts. When Julianne comes over to drink wine and draw with her kids, she smiles and plays along perfectly. But every single day, exactly 20 minutes after David leaves for work, she executes her steps. She secretly packs one box of irreplaceable items, a recipe box, baby teeth, service medals, and quietly moves them to her father's empty house outside the city limits. Box by box, she is slowly, methodically dismantling her own life in the dark.
Part 4. The trap is sprung. On the 28th day, a brutal, freezing rainstorm hits the valley.
The roads turn into sheets of black glass, and it is under this cinematic, incredibly dark atmosphere that the trap is finally sprung. She calls a meeting at Julianne's parents' house under the guise of an investment talk for David and a casual family dinner for Julianne. David walks into the dining room wearing his good tweed jacket, totally unsuspecting. Julianne walks in from the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee mugs, but there is no dinner. There are no children. They've already been safely hidden away. Instead, they walk in to find Julianne's parents sitting at a dining room table covered entirely in white paper, bank statements highlighted in fluorescent yellow. And stepping out from the shadows in the corner of the room is the attorney, Evelyn Vance.
The reveals hit with a clinical chill. Julianne's mother drops a black USB drive onto the table containing 30 pages of text logs detailing the entire affair and their sickening plot to wait for the father to die. Evelyn reveals the canceled lease, default notices. She then turns to David and casually informs him that his regional vice president is, at that very moment, deciding whether to call the state police over the embezzled corporate funds. David is handed a stark choice: sign a full custody waiver and a quitclaim deed tonight, right now, or face immediate jail time. The silence that followed wasn't human. It was the silence of a mine shaft after the cables snap.
Part 5. The walls hold. The masks are now completely stripped away.
The social structure completely liquefies. David immediately turns on Julianne, viciously blaming her for not keeping her ledger straight. Julianne's father banishes both of them from his home forever, and we see David transform instantly from the carefully crafted manager in his tweed jacket to an absolutely unhinged intruder. The protagonist drives to her father's house and just watches the destruction unfold on her phone via her doorbell camera. David is locked out, he throws a concrete planter through their bay window, crawls inside, and systematically destroys the interior of their home with a golf club, desperately looking for cash that just isn't there anymore. Later, he drives to the father's house and beats the door with an aluminum bat until the state troopers finally arrive. He doesn't even fight them. He just collapses backward into the freezing mud to be arrested, completely broken.
Time moves into December. The valley is quiet. The mountains are monochrome. The river looks like dark oil. The protagonist sits peacefully in the oncology annex. Her father, fading in his final moments, opens his eyes. Using his old utility lineman terminology, he asks her if the wire is up. She leans over, kisses his cheek, and tells him the wire is up. The line is clear, and the power is back on. He passes away peacefully. And the high continuous beep of his flattened heart monitor sounds exactly like the haptic work alarm that started this entire collapse 6 weeks earlier. But there is one final loose thread to tie up. Julianne has fled the state to Ohio. Weeks later, an anonymous post appears on a local forum, aggressively defending Julianne, blaming the protagonist for manipulating everyone with her dying father, and venomously wishing harm upon her unborn child. But the metadata on the image attached to the post gives it away. It was routed from an IP address in Toledo, Ohio. So, how does the survivor respond to a final, venomous attack like this?
She doesn't post a public reply. She doesn't panic. She simply opens that old chat thread on her phone under the letter J and types 8 chilling words. "You forgot that I changed the names, Julianne." She turns the phone off, drops it into a drawer full of utility pliers, and pushes it shut with a solid iron click. She turns on the stove to make dinner for her children, the blue ring of flame catching with a sharp, definitive sound. Absolute, permanent boundaries have been established. The storm had come, but the walls were holding. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? When the lights go out, what are the actual structural limits of the people we trust the most?